The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3Advance, developers of sports tech apps that are AI-powered and UX-focused. So if you're looking to create some apps for your startup or your sports biz calls for some artificial or business intelligence, you should check out 3Advance. They're incredible. Go to 3advance.com. That's the number 3advance.com.
Empire.
If you want to sell in this competitive environment, you better be on your game.
People would get our presentation. It opens up. It's basically like a movie trailer. And there, we're incorporating a lot of, mainly a lot of video.
That's Angelina Lawton, CEO at Sportsdigita, a group redefining the art of the sport deal. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. Angelina Lawton has a background in corporate sales for the Tampa Bay Lightning. In that experience, she learned what she needed in this competitive environment to help get clients to sign on the dotted line, and it wasn't the standard pitch deck. Our guest this week is Angelina Lawton, who is the CEO of Sportsdigita, which is a platform that is powering presentations for over 400 professional, amateur, and collegiate sports properties. Hi, Angelina. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
As a former senior vice president of corporate communications, you've probably been in, I don't know how many meetings, 8 million of them. You've been pitched and been presenting your entire life. What took you in this direction to try to modernize the pitch and the presentation?
Well, I would say what took me in this direction for sure was my experience with the Tampa Bay Lightning and running all of their, branding and presentations. Anything with a logo, really with on it is what ran through my department. And that was, a really amazing opportunity. What I loved best about it was really helping the sales teams do all their huge pitches. They were at that time that I was down there, we were doing a lot of it was naming rights. It was big, 6-7 figure deals. And so when we kept trying to put these great presentations together, everything was just really falling flat for us. And just because of, being in the sports industry, we knew that there was just so many great assets that we could choose from and incorporate and bring our presentations to life. So really just the absence of not being able to do that really, kind of led me on that say, how can we do this better for PowerPoint, aside from PowerPoint? So I really looked around. I looked online. There was nobody really doing what we were doing, and just started to really set on that path, figuring out how to make that digital. So it wasn't while I was at the Lightning, it was after I left the Lightning, because when we were at the Lightning, we were starting to digitize everything, but not into the format that I wanted to do. That it was after I left the Lightning that I really came up with a concept for the DigiDeck.
All right, so tell me what the difference is. What did you create here, and how is it different than the previous, and you'd mentioned PowerPoint, but the other versions as well of presentations?
So for me, the comparison always is PowerPoint. So the ways that we're different is, we are definitely, customizing. We're operating from a master deck. We are in the cloud. So a lot of CRM integration, analytics. We've got management reporting, things of that nature. So everything kind of bringing it off the table, off the sheets of the PowerPoint, whatever the presentations were before, is how we were doing it. We were just finding that people were wanting to consume information in a much different way. And so a lot of that, presenting either in the boardroom or at the arena really was translating also, a lot more virtually than we wanted to be able to capture that. So that's how really the DigiDeck was born.
That's really interesting. You would think that the brands themselves, the Lightning or whoever, all the many teams and franchises that you're working with, kind of sell themselves, but you were finding that you needed to message differently, or at least showcase the brand differently to actually get through to the modern consumer and buyer?
We did. We really wanted to stand out. And just because of the industry that we were in, we were pitching to, Delta or Pepsi or these huge brands. We had to figure out a way to differentiate ourselves. And we were definitely able to do that now with the DigiDeck. People would get our presentation. It opens up. It's basically like a movie trailer. And there, we're incorporating a lot of, mainly a lot of video. So just really think about it as like this kind of movie trailer for either your franchise or, for whatever company you're working for, using that as your pitch deck.
So did you see immediate results with this when you started using it?
We did. Really capturing, our first deal. So the Minnesota Twins were my first client that really utilized it. And for them, buying the product and then actually doing one of their first pitches, they were able to really recoup the cost on buying that DigiDeck. So we were seeing results right away, just as far as the response rates on opening them, the interaction, how the time frame that they were there, and then really closing deals. So everyone that, was using the DigiDeck at the time, just was really starting to see a lot more, engagement with them, shorter sales cycles. So it was really been, we've really, I think, hit a sweet spot in the market for people that are looking, companies, teams, whatever it is, that are looking for something more than PowerPoint. There really was no one doing what we're doing. That there's other sales enablement companies out there that are similar, that they're in parts of the quadrant that we are, but what we are doing differently is we've got that whole master deck concept, and that's really what has allowed us to win, rather large deals away from our competitors. Even, we're competing against pretty big dogs in the space, and we are winning more and more every day.
If you're comfortable answering this question, I'm curious because you've had the position of being, part of the pitch for a brand like the Lightning. And I know we're focused here on the technology behind helping those pitches convert into sales for the brands. Besides the tech part of it and the presentation part of it, which is what we're focused on today, what's different about the way teams reach out to potential customers that may be different from in the past? I guess what I'm asking is, what do customers want in return from teams to be partnered with them now?
So they're looking for ways. So I think you're asking more about like a sponsorship,
yes,
activation, maybe not so much on the ticketing side, but right now, everything is completely different with COVID. If you would ask me before COVID versus after, I think I'll talk more as far as now. They're looking for ways to engage with the fans through digital assets, obviously. So they have to get very creative. Prior to COVID, it was a lot of more of experiences that rather than just buying a sign, in the infield or a dasher board or whatever it may be. So I think that people are expecting and wanting more of that experience with the team. And then now post-COVID, it really is how can we get creative and still stay relevant in this whole time frame that what we're going through.
So
and it's getting more and more difficult.
So. Yeah. Well, let's be optimistic, though. We'll get a therapeutic or something here, and fans will go back to games, and we'll get something back to normal. The modern fan obviously is consuming things very differently than they used to, with second screens and all the social media, and there's gambling that's being incorporated now. As you view this from the point of view of a team that's trying to find partnerships to activate with their customers, how are they kind of viewing the modern sports content landscape?
Well, I think it's all, again, just digital. They've got to figure out a way to interact with them. They've got to figure out, when they're not in the stadium, how they're still having them be part of the experience. So I think that a team, for example, everyone is either all in on trying to make this work, or there are some people that are, some teams that are hesitant and kind of with a wait and see attitude. But I'm just trying to go over with all of our partners and what they're doing, and people are just really trying to stay engaged with the fans in whichever way that they can. Obviously, they're not in person, but they're just trying to whether it's reach out, whether it's videos, whether it's campaigns that they're doing through game day programs, things like that. They're just trying to stay relevant and engaging with them. But it's difficult. The number one thing is fans in the stands. So it's difficult.
Yeah, difficult right now. Hopefully we'll get our world back. I'll let you go with this. You said you worked for the Lightning, and here we are in the middle of the Stanley Cup final. What do you make of the Tampa Bay Lightning? They might be champions this year. We'll see.
Right. We do not have them as a partner, but we do have the Dallas Stars. So we're a little bit biased right now, and we're cheering for that for sure.
Boy, things can change quick. Yeah. Or allegiances can change quick in your world. How about that?
Right, for sure.
Angelina Lawton is the CEO of Sportsdigita. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Support for this podcast comes from AT&T. 5G from AT&T is fast, reliable, secure, and nationwide. So, should you switch? Well, historically, those were the reasons new tech was adopted. Neanderthals saw that fire heated things fast and made their caves secure from rampaging woolly mammoths. The ancient Romans saw that the aqueducts were a reliable and fast way to transport water, so they stopped carrying water jugs on their backs and adopted them nationwide. Oh, and 1800s Victorians saw electricity light up rooms fast and be more reliable than candles blowing out, so they stopped bumping into walls and made it nationwide. Today's no different. Switching to AT&T 5G is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, historically speaking, it's smarter than candles, water pots, and hungry dinosaurs. AT&T 5G, it's not complicated. 5G requires compatible plan, may not be in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
On the next Future Sport podcast, it's time to shift your mind.
One of the things I noticed over the last decade is that when you listen to elite performers, they talk about being perfectionistic and adaptable. They talk about being humble and then uber confident. And so I noticed that there was this shift that they were making between their preparation mind and performance mind. And
that's author and performance coach Brian Levinson, who discusses his new book, Shift Your Mind, which is helping athletes and executives focus in preparing to thrive, even in these bizarre times. That will do it for this episode. As always, the future is now. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3Advance, developers of sports tech apps that are AI-powered and UX-focused. So if you're looking to create some apps for your startup or your sports biz calls for some artificial or business intelligence, you should check out 3Advance. They're incredible. Go to 3advance.com. That's the number 3advance.com.